2 patrol cars pulled into my driveway, lights flashing, all because I spoke 5 simple words. I'm not in your HOA. The HOA president, a woman drunk on her own tiny bit of power, had spent weeks turning my life into a nightmare. Bogus fines mailed to my door, harassing letters, treating a decorated Army veteran like some kind of criminal. The moment I calmly told her the truth, she dialed 911, claiming I was threatening the entire community. Little did she know, while she was busy trying to ruin me, I uncovered something buried deep in my great-uncle's dusty old files. Something that turned the entire power dynamic on its head. Something that proved she didn't just lack authority over me. She was about to discover that I held a real authority over her precious neighborhood, and over everything she thought she controlled. What would you do if someone called the police on you simply for telling the truth? Drop a comment below and let me know where you're watching from, because the story I'm about to share is going to blow your mind. My name is Marcus Thornfield. 6 months ago, I retired after 28 years in the Army Corps of Engineers, thinking I'd finally earned some quiet peace. I was wrong. I inherited 47 acres from my great-uncle Ezra, an eccentric old codger who collected legal documents the way some people hoard stamps. His 1950s farmhouse sat smack in the middle of what is now Millbrook Heights, a shiny subdivision of McMansions where folks treat grass height like a moral failing. The house had character, wraparound porch with hand-hewn posts, floors that creaked like they were telling stories with every step. Uncle Ezra's basement was a treasure trove of yellowed boxes, the musty scent of old paper mingling with the echo of my boots on concrete. I should have paid closer attention to those papers right from the start. Then I met Vivian Ashworth, and my peaceful retirement went straight to hell. Picture a 58-year-old woman who probably irons her underwear and color coordinates her sock drawer, silver hair shellacked into perfect submission, driving a Lexus SUV with bored PRZ vanity plates. She'd ruled the HOA like a dictator for 6 years, treating 800 families like subjects in her personal kingdom. My neighbor Tom Bradley, a retired firefighter who brought me coffee the first week I moved in, filled me in on her reign of terror. She'd fined the Miller family $300 because their kid's sidewalk chalk wasn't in approved colors. She forced the Johnsons to rip out their vegetable garden for being agriculturally inconsistent with residential standards. She once measured my grass with an actual ruler and threatened to lean over half an inch. The woman was unhinged, but I figured she'd leave me alone. My property clearly wasn't part of her precious subdivision. I put up a 25-foot flagpole my first week. Old Glory flying proud, POWMIA flag underneath, and a simple wooden sign, Thornfield Ranch Estate 1847. Nothing flashy, just honest pride on American soil. On day 3, here she came, marching up my gravel driveway like she owned every inch of dirt in the county, heels clicking like a death march, clutching her citation book as if it were the Constitution. "Sir, your flagpole exceeds our 20-foot height restriction. That sign requires architectural committee pre-approval." I was fixing fence posts, sweat dripping, hands dirty from honest work, the smell of creosote and fresh-cut lumber in the air. "Ma'am, with all due respect, I'm not in your HOA." Her face turned fire engine red. "Everyone in this community follows our covenants and restrictions. Check your property maps," I said calmly. "This land predates your subdivision by 50 years. It didn't matter. She slapped a $250 citation under my truck's windshield wiper anyway. When I called the HOA office to explain politely, her assistant basically told me to pound sand in language that would make a drill sergeant blush. That's when Uncle Ezra's voice echoed in my head. "Boy, when someone starts throwing their weight around, it's time to check who actually has the power." I started spending weekends at the county recorder's office. Mrs. Rodriguez, the clerk who'd worked there 30 years, lit up when she heard my last name. Ezra Thornfield? That man was a legend. Never saw anyone read contracts more carefully than your uncle. She pulled a thick manila file. Your uncle granted road access to the original developer in 1996, but look at this clause. Road access contingent on maintenance of private roadway standards. He let them build roads across his land, but he never transferred ownership. He kept mineral rights, water rights, road ownership. They could use them, but he still owned them. Driving home, every street, Heritage Circle, Founders Way, Elm Creek Trail, suddenly looked different. They were all built on Uncle Ezra's original 47 acres. That night, surrounded by the smell of old leather and yellowing paper in his basement, I found his final letter dated 2019. Marcus, if you're reading this, some fools have probably tried to push you around. Time to remind them who really runs this show. Vivian didn't waste time. The morning after our confrontation, 3 more citations were plastered across my front door like legal graffiti. $50 for unapproved exterior lighting, my porch light that had been there since Eisenhower, $100 for non-conforming vehicle storage, my work truck in my own driveway, and $200 for failure to maintain approved landscaping standards. She was citing me for dandelions on a working ranch. I called again. Got transferred to Derek, their young property manager who sounded like he was reading from a script. Sir, all residents must comply regardless of property age. Son, I'm not a resident of your HOA. Check your plat maps. Mrs. Ashworth says boundary disputes don't exempt anyone from community standards. That's when I knew we were dealing with someone who'd rather be wrong with authority than right without it. Things escalated fast. One morning I watched a guy with a clipboard and camera trespass onto my land, photographing everything from my barns peeling paint to my chickens. Vivian had hired a private inspector. The smell of fresh manure mixed with my morning coffee as this fool climbed my fence to document non-conforming agricultural structures. I photographed him right back, then called the sheriff. Deputy Martinez arrived quickly, a good man who knew Uncle Ezra personally. The morning air carried honeysuckle as he examined the inspector's letter. This authorizes inspection of HOA properties. This isn't one. The inspector left with a warning and no pictures, but Vivian was only getting started. That afternoon she arrived with 2 board members and their lawyer, fancy suits on my porch, dress shoes clicking like fingernails on chalkboard. They offered honorary membership, with reduced dues, and grandfathered violations if I just comply going forward. I handed the contract back. Folks, that's mighty kind, but I'll pass. Her face turned purple. We're trying to be reasonable. Ma'am, I don't need permission to be reasonable on my own property. After they left, I dug deeper with Mrs. Rodriguez. Ezra had filed for exclusive water pumping rights in 1962, covering the entire aquifer under the subdivision, renewed annually for $50 unless canceled. He'd built a fortress of protections. Tom Bradley came by with beer and bad news. Vivian was blackballing contractors, posting on Nextdoor about dangerous anti-authority military individuals moving in. She was attacking my service record. That crossed a line. Reading by lamplight in the musty basement, I found a 1963 easement agreement giving Uncle Ezra maintenance authority over the entire drainage system, every storm drain, culvert, everything keeping Millbrook Heights from flooding. I now had legal oversight, including the main line running under Vivian's perfect front yard. Tuesday morning, I showed up at her house with clipboard and measuring tape, biggest smile I could muster. Her lawn looked magazine-ready, every blade identical. She answered in a bathrobe that cost more than my truck payment. Just here for routine drainage easement inspection, I said, holding up the agreement. Her face cycled through confusion to rage. You can't just walk onto my property. Actually, I can. Your house sits over the main storm drain. My great-uncle negotiated those rights. They transferred to me. She slammed the door so hard the windows rattled. 10 minutes later, 2 patrol cars rolled up while I measured the access point in her backyard. Officer Johnson recognized me. I handed over the documents slowly. Sergeant Williams read the fine print. He can inspect with reasonable notice during business hours. Watching Vivian's face crash like an old computer was priceless. The officers left. I finished my inspection. She called the cops on the man legally authorized to stand exactly where he was. She kept playing dirty. My insurance company got a complaint about safety hazards from my dangerous agricultural activities. Tom told me she'd called county health about my chickens, filed code complaints about my barn, and spread rumors I was planning commercial farming with pigs and cattle to ruin property values. But she'd picked the wrong fight. I showed Tom the water rights documents. What happens when those perfect lawns can't get watered? His grin was pure gold. Wednesday brought Vivian, her lawyer, and 3 HOA employees in coveralls with surveying gear. They claimed they were conducting a boundary survey. The equipment looked official, but their shirts said Millbrook Property Management. They were trying to fake measurements to claim the roads. I recorded everything. Called Martinez. He arrived, confirmed they needed permission, and they weren't licensed surveyors. As they left, I overheard Vivian on the phone. File the paperwork tomorrow. We'll claim adverse possession of the roadways based on 25 years of maintenance. Adverse possession. Squatters stealing land if the owner doesn't fight back. She was trying to steal my road through fraud. I raced to Mrs. Rodriguez. Someone had already filed preliminary claims. But Uncle Ezra renewed everything yearly through 2019. Clear paper trail. If I hadn't shown up, they'd have succeeded in 6 months. Digging deeper, I found 1965 mineral rights retained for the entire area: oil, gas, gravel, clay. A 1987 survey showed substantial gravel deposits under the community center. Then came the bombshell. Mrs. Rodriguez called, voice shaking. Your uncle owns the entire subdivision. In 1995, the developer went bankrupt. The bank foreclosed. Ezra bought the package: 847 lots, community center, playground, fountain, for pennies on the dollar. He retained the land, leasing it back via 99-year ground leases with automatic renewals. But there was an escape clause: harassment of the lessor, false claims, interference, any violation let the lessor, now me, terminate and reclaim. Vivian had spent 2 months systematically violating the lease terms of her own landlord. For 24 years, every homeowner paid ground lease fees through their mortgages without knowing, roughly $760,000 annually, over $18 million total, sitting in a trust one now controlled. Uncle Ezra documented everything, building a decades-long case. His final letter to me: don't use it to destroy. Make them partners, not enemies. I turned his study into a war room, maps on walls, documents like battle plans. I wouldn't evict 800 families. I'd teach respect. Phase 1. Build allies among Vivian's victims: the Millers, Johnsons, Sarah Finley, the pediatric nurse who'd fought playground fines for years. She and her accountant husband Mike helped create a simple presentation explaining ground leases. Phase 2. Document every violation with military precision: citations, false reports, fraudulent surveys. Phase 3. The HOA meeting at the community center I now owned. The room was packed. Standing room only, tension thick as cologne. Vivian tried to dismiss rumors as misinformation. Sarah stood up waving her lease agreement. Mike showed mortgage statements with Thornfield Ground Lease Trust deductions. The room went silent. Vivian claimed ignorance. Tom seized it. If you don't know what we're paying for, maybe you shouldn't control the money. She got desperate, pulled a fake petition, filed false county complaints, then dialed 911 in front of everyone, claiming threats. The room exploded. I stayed calm, recording. Deputy Martinez arrived. No one felt threatened. Vivian doubled down. I revealed the 1995 foreclosure deed, ground leases, everything. You own your houses, but Uncle Ezra, and now I, own the land underneath. The crowd processed. I read Uncle Ezra's letter aloud. Make them partners. I proposed transparency, fair rules, no more harassment, or court where lawyers win and everyone loses. Applause erupted, except from Vivian. Martinez escorted her out for questioning about the false report. A news crew arrived just in time, capturing her meltdown. I explained calmly into the camera. Vivian shrieked denials. The truth was out. 6 months later, Millbrook Heights became the Millbrook Community Partnership, elected leaders, transparent budgets, sensible rules. Property values rose 12% because people actually liked living here again. I sat on my porch watching kids in the new community garden, smelling tomatoes and herbs, coffee tasting better from wells I owned. Tom brought beer. Vivian took a plea, community service, fine, 5-year HOA ban. Sarah became president. Mike handled the books. The old HOA office turned resource center, Uncle Ezra's letter framed inside. 3 other HOAs reached out for advice. Our story spread. I handed a new request to Sarah. Think you can handle this one? She grinned. We've been handling things without you for months. You just gave us the tools. Uncle Ezra's legacy wasn't ownership. It was the chance to build something better. So here's my advice. Document everything, know your rights, stand up for what's right. Communities thrive when everyone has a voice. Drop your own HOA horror stories in the comments. You're not alone. Like if this had you cheering, subscribe for more tales of regular people beating corruption. Next week, the town council that tried to seize a veteran's property for a parking lot until they learned he owned the mineral rights under City Hall. Thanks for watching HOA Stories, where Karens finally meet their match. See you next time.